Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of the Cream City Cast. This is CreamCityCentral.com's weekly podcast, bringing you the latest news and opinions of the Milwaukee Bucks. Our podcast is brought to you by ShepherdExpress.com. You can check them out there. Have all the ups and ins about stuff going on in Milwaukee. I'm co-hosting once again, as always, with Andrew Goodman. Thank you for joining me. Let's give the folks a little recap of the last couple of games with the Bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And trading we've seen all season is another bipolar week for the Milwaukee Bucks. After their home game against the Jazz, where they beat them 117-100, it really looked like they were turning a corner. They had the mojo going, they had the swagger. But then that next week started with the loss at the Pelicans, 115-108. Up and down, just didn't get enough contribution outside of Giannis. Bledsoe and Chris Middleton really struggled with their shot. And when that happens, they're going to lose most nights. So that's really unexpected. But the real shocker for me was the following game against the Chicago Bulls at home, where they lost 115-109. Granted, Chicago's been playing well, but that's a team that we should expect to beat them 9 times out of 10, especially with, no secret how bad they are this year, them going for the tank. So that was another frustrating game for the Bucks. And then they followed that up with another loss on the road at Houston. That is to be expected, but they did compete. They only lost by 4, 115-111. And they finally got back on the winning streak yesterday against LeBron James and the Cavaliers, 119-116. And that was definitely one of the best games I've seen in the NBA this season, don't you think?
Yeah, I do too. I was actually at that game. The intensity level in the arena was really good. It helped that they got off too. I mean, they didn't start out that great, but that second quarter was really something, and you kind of saw, I guess you could say, the high point, the climax of what this team can really be. They won the quarter 39-24. I mean, it was something that I think that was really telling about what this Bucks team is, and they play to their opponent, and I think that this stretch of games has been extremely telling. They're all close. You have 2 great teams in Houston and Cleveland, close. Win one, lose one. You lose to the Bulls, terrible team. I don't care if they're hot. You have to give them credit because they have been kind of finding their way, but they're terrible. We have way more talent than them, and especially with how Bulls fans have just come in and invaded the Bradley Center on a consistent basis. You think that the Bucks would, try at least to slow them down. But, Robin Lopez killed them on the inside that game, and it's kind of the same thing. The Bucks always played as a team that they're playing, and it's really frustrating because there's those high points like I mentioned earlier, and it's, if you bring that 3/4 of the time, you're going to be a 50-win team. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talk about this all the time, is how the Milwaukee Bucks struggle with consistency. And, the great teams, they bring it every night, no matter who they're playing. They always play at an elite level. And the Bucks still playing down to their competition and up to their competition, although it could be a good thing, that does set for traps like losses at the Pelicans and versus the Chicago Bulls. Versus, those are the teams that you expect to win, and those are the teams that the Bucks need to win if they want to have a 50-win season and, make themselves look in the hunt for the Eastern Conference Finals.
I read an article today on Sports Illustrated that the Bucks are the biggest wild card in the league, and they hit that straight on the head because you never know what you're going to get from them. You know that it's going to be competitive, but other than the Kings, who we haven't beat anyone handily, but there's no question about our talent.
Yeah.
You look, and Giannis can only do so much. And I think that's a given at this point. He is what he is. He's going to give you 27 to 30 every night. At least maybe 8+ rebounds and maybe 4 assists. And that's fine. But, it's through the pecking order of 2, 3, 4, and 5, and on the bench, what are those guys going to bring to the table? Because you never know when Bledsoe's going to have a great night. You never know when he's going to have an off night. You never know when Middleton's going to have a great night. You never know when he's going to have an off night. So I think and then you factor in Jabari Parker. If one of those three can have a decent night every game, the Bucks will be in better shape. I can guarantee you that, because a mainstay in the second spot is what we really need.
Yeah, absolutely. And since the Bucks acquired Eric Bledsoe, when they trot out a lineup that has all three of them in there, I believe they're top 10 in net rating and offensive rating and defensive rating. So they're top 10 team when they roll out a lineup with those three. But we do know what Giannis is going to bring us every night, and it's going to be who's going to step up. Let's say when Chris Middleton has a rough shooting night, Eric Bledsoe has a rough shooting night. Who's going to be that guy coming off the bench? And the Bucks were definitely lifted with the return of Tony Snell yesterday versus the Cavs. He hit a very clutch three-pointer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Tony Snell, actually, I do think that he will find his way back to the starting lineup at some point. But I think that if you look at kind of like the structure of the minutes, Delly, I understand he's coming back from injury. They had him in a spot start kind of role, 10 minutes last night. But I really think Brogdon should be in there, because he's never felt like this comfortable off the bench. I understand he had 16 last night and played very well, but he was damn near playing starters minutes, and he's not that great off the bench. And you're telling me if you have Eric Bledsoe at the 1, Brogdon at the 2, and that the greatest thing is that they're interchangeable in those roles. They can really play either spot. Either one can bring it up. And it gives you flexibility, because there's a difference between if Eric Bledsoe's bringing the ball up and there's a difference if Malcolm Brogdon's bringing the ball up. If Eric Bledsoe's bringing the ball, that's the thing. You can hit teams in different ways, because Bledsoe's speed and Brogdon's just really good at getting the ball set up in the offense.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If you're going to play him starters minutes, even coming off the bench, it would only make sense for him to be inserted into the starting lineup. And that's, the great old mystery of head coach Jason Kidd is you've had Brogdon this whole year, but then again, you've started Gary Payton the second over him before he got waived. Matthew Dellavedova, for some reason, was starting yesterday, and then DeAndre Liggins was plugged in as a starter as well, while Brogdon was still sitting on the pine. So I do agree with you that Brogdon definitely should be starting. He's definitely, since he moved to the bench, he's taken a hit on offense and defense, and it looks like he's not the same on both ends of the floor as he was as a starter.
Well, exactly. And if you move Brogdon to the starting lineup, that not only helps your starting lineup, but it bolsters your bench. Delly's really good in spot minutes on the bench. You can put him in, and he can cause havoc defensively. He can be there to hit threes. Then you have, even if you go with the same lineup and you put Brogdon in the starting lineup, Tony Snell on the bench. I mean, Delly, Tony Snell, Thon, and then Jabari eventually. I mean,
the prospect of that is very nice.
Yeah, it's serviceable at least. I mean, and then, Sterling Brown getting a couple minutes last night. That's one thing that I'd like to see Kidd maybe push a little bit more. I mean, it is kind of a trust thing that I feel like he's sort of feeling out. But when in the fourth quarter, when your bench could not score for the life of them on that 24-2 run, you think that, maybe we could put in this kid that can really score the ball. But, I mean, yeah, he hasn't proven it necessarily, but his pedigree shows that he can. There is no question that Jason Kidd's decisions are questionable,
to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, with the report that he told Middleton to miss the free throw, I mean,
with 0.1 left. You're worried about a 4-point play. Oh my goodness.
I mean, that's pretty tough to say. And I mean, and the thing is that like he was a player. So like maybe that's what, when he was playing, he's like, well, I would have missed the free throw on purpose. It's just really about his psyche. And you start to wonder, is Jason Kidd a stepping stone similar to Mark Jackson?
That could be the case, but I want to get back to the point about Sterling Brown getting more minutes. I do like the prospect of him getting more minutes coming off the bench, and I think the Bucks need to decrease DeAndre Liggins' minutes, to say the least, because when he's on the floor, we all know he's a great competitor. He's a great on-ball defender, perimeter defender. He played great defense on Kyle Korver yesterday, but if you look at the Bucks offensively when he's on the floor, their dynamic is totally different. We saw it multiple times yesterday against the Cavs that when he was on the floor, there was absolutely no spacing because whoever was defending Liggins would just completely sag off him and clog the paint, which leaves the Bucks no room to operate. So they're just passing around the perimeter, which, laying the shot clock, Liggins will give it up and, probably shot clock violation or just a horrible shot.
Well, yeah, you're right. And what does DeAndre Liggins shoot? He shoots corner threes, and that's it.
Yeah.
So who would you rather have shoot that corner three, Liggins or Sterling Brown? I'd say Sterling Brown.
Yeah, absolutely. Sterling Brown looked pretty good in his minutes yesterday. I forgot who was guarding him, but he made a nice jab step dribble move with his left hand to the basket, very aggressive. He's definitely showed his flash on that one, and that was very impressive for me.
And he can fill it up. I mean, he did it on the Herd. I mean, I understand it's the G League, but, it has to translate. Basketball is basketball. If you're a scorer, you can get to the bucket and you can score.
Yeah.
And you're playing against the Cavs, but we're a young team still. We got to be finding who's going to be the guys that are going to take the Cavs on in a 7-game series, because that should be our goal, the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You don't gain anything by leaving Sterling Brown on the bench, just letting him rot. And you see the Bucks just sent down DJ Wilson today to the Wisconsin Herd, which, that move was probably a month overdue, but nonetheless, they finally made the move. So I definitely think there is a case to be made that Sterling Brown does deserve more minutes. And saw yesterday against the Cavs, he brought a lot of energy, and also credit to Thon Maker as well. He's been playing with newly reinvigorated spirits, to say the least.
Yeah. So I wanted to, a lot of people are talking after last night's game about kind of the Giannis and LeBron comparison debate, if you want to call it. Now, I love Giannis, and I think Giannis could be a very, very, very special player and could be in a very special category before his time's over. But to compare them for what LeBron James is today compared to what Giannis is today is really unfair in my mind. LeBron was not as proficient of a three-point shooter as he was when he was 22 or 23, now Giannis is, as he is now.
Right.
Because I was watching the Herd today, and he brought up a shot chart of Giannis and LeBron. And it's like, well, you can't compare him to LeBron necessarily because, one, his skills aren't completely there yet, shooting the ball. Two, the guy's averaging 33 points against the Cavs this season. Yeah. He can fill it up, and you don't have to fill it up with a jump shot. I understand it's a jump shooting league, but I feel like the Bucks, once LeBron's out of the league, the Bucks are ahead of the curve. The small ball the Warriors have is set to specifically beat LeBron, because LeBron always has a bunch of old players around him that are terrible at help defense and are very slow, which the Warriors thrive on. But if you can outlength the Warriors while still having that skill, that's how you get into that echelon.
Right, and the perimeter shooting too. But to get back to your point about comparing LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo, it really isn't fair considering the fact that LeBron James has been in the league for, 15 years, and he's only getting better every year. And Giannis is still relatively new, if we're talking in terms of, comparing him to LeBron to the NBA. LeBron's game is way more redefined, and Giannis is, obviously still growing, has a lot more years until he actually does hit his prime. So I think Colin Cowherd using a shot chart to compare the two is a really weak argument, but I do see his point in not being able to compare the two. But I think that's because we've never seen someone like Giannis in terms of, athleticism, length, height, and how he can put the ball on the floor like a guard. We have never seen that.
No, and you're absolutely right. And another thing to consider is that LeBron has been playing basketball at the highest level since for like his age group since he was like 9 years old. He's lived basketball his entire life. And, Giannis hasn't. I think that's something that is really forgotten, that how new he is to everything, American culture, American basketball, all that stuff. You don't take that into account because you take him for granted. Like, oh, because every player this is about like the one and dones too. Everyone wants it to be now. But you know what? It's not like that. Anthony Davis, when he first got drafted, he was supposed to be great. He struggled relatively in his first couple of years, but as he got his feet under him, now he's really showing that he's a good player. And I think it's just a maturity level. Once Giannis gets that maturity, I think all bets are off, and you'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree. And the one thing that really jumps out at me about Giannis's game is his will and desire to win.
Uh-huh.
It's unparalleled, you know. And another thing that is similar to the two is, LeBron early in his career, the team around him was not very good. There's no secret there. It's kind of like in years past with Giannis, the teams have not been very good. It's a bleak argument to make, but it's true. Look at LeBron. He led a team with Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Sasha Pavlovich to the finals. That's just a testament to how great he is.
Right. No, you're 100% right. And thinking about it even more in that sense, now that Giannis is getting some talent, they're in the conversation. That's all you want to be in right now. Move your way. You're in the conversation. You spoil a playoff series or two this year. There's no reason why we couldn't be in the Eastern Conference Finals.
No, I agree with you 100%.
We could beat the Celtics in a 7-game series. We could beat the Wizards. We could beat the Raptors. But we could also lose to them. Like as cliche as it is, we could also get swept by them because of the Bucks' inconsistencies. And that's built by the one thing I will say that LeBron is definitely better at than Giannis right now, and it partially is because of immaturity, is LeBron can will a team to win single-handedly. He can say, hop on my back and we're going to win because of that jump shot.
Right.
Giannis is very susceptible in late games because they will pack that paint super tight and they will shut Giannis down and they will say, whoever else is on the court, beat me. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So once they can get rid of opponents packing the paint, then we can start talking about maybe some titles. I don't know. I mean, I'm a Bucks fan, but in a very, very just as a basketball, just in my knowledge of the game, we could be in some title contention with a couple right moves.
Yeah, down the road for sure. And it's cliche, Giannis, in order to take the next step, needs a jump shot. Well, it is true. Right now he doesn't really have, let's be honest, his jump shot is still broke. Very, very broke. But he's still averaging 30 points a game just basically on dunks, which is ridiculous. But I do believe it's true in terms of how opponents will play the Bucks. And if he doesn't develop a jump shot, then that definitely does, cap the Bucks' potential because of how other teams will be able to defend him.
Right. And in late game situations, it's because of the timeouts and stuff like that, it's primarily played in the half court. You're not really in transition and there's not much space. So
and that's where the Bucks struggle with most, is in the half court.
Yep. Exactly right. Well, I think that'll be the end of our Bucks segment today. I think we covered a lot, and we do want to apologize for the timeliness of our podcast. We are students, and we did have some finals to take care of, so we're hoping we'll be back every week, maybe even multiple times a week, getting this out to you. So just want to say thanks for your patience, and we appreciate you guys listening. So
yeah, as always.
Yep. Andrew, did you want to just go over the couple games that we have for the rest of the week?
Yeah, the Bucks got 2 games remaining this week. They got one on Friday at home against the Hornets, and then they travel the next day on Saturday to Charlotte, North Carolina to face the same Hornets. So a little home and home back-to-back. against Kemba
Awesome.
Walker and the Hornets.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. You can check our socials out at Dylan Piccolo 35 and at Andrew_Goodman3. Always check our works out at creamcitycentral.com. Check us out on our social media sites at Cream City Central. And go Bucks.
Go Bucks, go.